So last week, my family, we found ourselves in an emergency situation, one that required a lot of legwork in a very short period of time. Hi, I'm Jennifer Slattery from Holy Loved Ministries. And initially, I sensed my panic rising, and I wanted to just buckle down and focus on. I made probably 20 phone calls in one day. Like I said, it was all, I felt like I had a short period of time to help take care of a really big, high risk, difficult, painful, frightening situation. And the temptation was to remain just focused on what I was doing and ignore this anxiety that was rising up within me because I felt like I just didn't have time to deal with what was going on internally. But if you have been following my conversations in some of the other videos that I have done, I'm learning a bit in my own healing journey, my own freedom journey. I'm learning a bit about brain science. And in fact, we're going to have a neuroscientist, a psychiatrist, a Christian psychiatrist on the Faith Over Fear podcast at the end of this month. His name is Dr. Curt Thompson. He hosts the Being Known podcast, and he talks a lot about ways that we can actively rewire our brain. He focuses largely on connectedness, but also we know that we can rewire our brain for peace. And he emphasizes our connection, taking time to really connect with God. And so I've been learning this, and I went to his conference, and I'm really bought into his message because I've seen actually how helpful it can be. And so remembering that, I realized when I'm in that moment last week, actually, of just feeling like just in a high crisis state, I realized that I could stay there in my moment of crisis, or I could pull away for a minute and focus on not just the moment that was going on, but really what I knew God is doing in my life overall, like the big overarching plan that he is leading me towards freedom. So I believe, and we proclaim at Holy Love Ministries, that's God's desire for us always, that we would lean towards, that we would grow towards increased freedom. That means our crisis situation, whatever it is, it's about much more than just that particular moment. And so knowing that, I recognized, even though it felt like I couldn't get away, that I absolutely needed to, because by sitting there in my crisis moment without seeking God, I was in effect strengthening the neural pathways in my brain towards fear. And so I wanted to then break away and move towards learning how to really manage those moments well. And so I went for this walk, and I have to admit, I felt a little guilty, like I was abandoning people around me to take this prayer and praise walk. And there was a time actually I started walking, and I turned around and I started walking back the other way. And then I turned back around. I'm like, no, I need this. And I just really rested in God's presence. And one of the verses that Dr. Thompson mentioned during his conference is from Psalm 27, verse 4. I'm going to read it to you now. But first, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. We don't know exactly when David, so ancient Israel's second king, we don't know exactly when he wrote this passage, Psalm 27. But when you read it, you recognize that it was a high stress situation, potentially crisis situation, where he was feeling afraid, because he begins by saying, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the defense of my life. Whom shall I dread?" So obviously he was feeling like he was afraid and dreading someone. And then he goes on, "When evil doers came upon me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled and fell." And then he gets to verse 3, "Though a host encamp against me, my heart will not fear. Though war arise against me, in spite of this, I shall be confident." So it's like he's giving himself a pep talk, right? Like, no matter what happens, I will not be afraid, because my God is my light and my salvation. And then we get to kind of the how-to steps, how David really armed himself with this knowledge, how he strengthened himself from within, how he fought his fears with truth and with God's presence. We read in Psalm 27, verse 4, "One thing I have asked from the Lord, that I shall seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to meditate in his temple." So let's break this down a minute. So first he sought God's help. Like it's kind of like, so for me, this might look like, Lord, my brain is going 100 miles a minute. I want to connect with you. Will you please help me? Will you draw me to you? Will you increase my awareness of your presence? And then he did his part, right? He said, that I shall seek. So yes, I'm praying for God to draw me to him, but I am going to seek after him as well, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord. So basically, that I may remain in God's presence. I mean, obviously, he wasn't saying like I'm going to live in the temple. At that time, it hadn't even been fully built yet, like the permanent temple. He's not saying like I'm going to check out of all my responsibilities and I'm just going to go stay at church. He's basically saying I want to remain in God's presence all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord. And Dr. Curt Thompson talks about gazing on God. And so for me, to behold the beauty of God, it's everything that is amazing about his character, his power, his grace, his love, his faithfulness, his tenderness. And so I'm beholding those beautiful parts of him. I am gazing, I am focusing on, I'm remaining cognizant of everything good and right and pure about God. And I am meditating on him and his truths. And when I do that, I am reminded that I truly have nothing to fear, because the Lord is my light and my salvation. He is the defense of my life, and he is bigger than anything that could ever come against me. And so I went on that prayer walk, and my problems were still there when I got back. But the world didn't fall apart because I took 30 minutes, 45 minutes just to connect with God. And in doing that, I am confident that I am training my brain when I am afraid, when a crisis situation arises. I am training my brain to find peace and security in Christ. And I am rewiring my brain every time I connect with God. I am rewiring my brain away from shame. I'm borrowing from Dr. Curt Thompson's research, but away from shame, towards deeper connection, deeper healing, deeper peace, and deeper freedom. And your day may be really busy, and you may feel like so much is coming at you that you don't have time to catch a breath, let alone go on a prayer walk with Jesus Christ. But may I suggest that could be the very reason you might need to? And as I was going through on my walk, I reminded myself that yes, everything felt urgent in the moment, but if it truly was that urgent, my God would take care of it, because he takes care of me. And so my taking time for a prayer walk was me placing it was like staking a claim and saying, my God's got this, my God's got me, and therefore I can connect with him right now, because he will take care of everything that concerns me and that concerns my family, and he is going to do the same for you.